What's up, YouTube? Zero here, and today I have a really fun Ludicolo and Eiscue deck in Pokemon TCG Pocket. In this video, I'll go over the deck build that you can see on the left-hand side of the screen. I'll talk about each of these cards individually, and I'll talk about why this is a hidden gem. Definitely going to get you some wins and can definitely go against and defeat some of the best decks in the game. Before I get into it, I do want to say if you do enjoy this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button for more Pokemon TCG Pocket. I do a bunch of other video games, so feel free to check those out as well. I've been posting a lot on Call of Duty, and I'm about to start Expedition 33, so be on the lookout for videos of that. Without further ado, time to talk about this deck and the star of the deck, Ludicolo. I remember when Ludicolo first came out, I really loved the Pokemon. I don't know why, I just really loved using it. It was such a fun Pokemon. But this Ludicolo has just one move, Rhythmic Steps. For 2 water energy, deals 60 damage. However, if you have exactly 1, 3, or 5 cards in your hand, this attack does 60 more damage. So you have to play Ludicolo with a lot of strategy, trying to make sure you have 1, 3, or 5 cards in your hand when you attack. However, being able to do so allows you to do 120 damage. You may not always need it. Sometimes 60 is just required depending upon the HP your opponent's Pokemon has. However, strategizing and making sure you can hit for 120, you can take out a decent amount of Pokemon or substantially hinder a lot of Pokemon. So I absolutely love Ludicolo. It's a really fun Pokemon, but does require a little bit of strategy. Ludicolo can be found in the Mega Rising, Mega Altaria decks. Now, let's talk about the evolution line. Of course, you need to evolve into a Ludicolo. Lotad, the basic in this line, for 1 water energy, has Water Gun for 20 damage. Can also be found in the Mega Rising, Mega Altaria packs. And then I do have 1 Lombre. I also have 2 rare candies to evolve into Ludicolo. So 1 Lombre, 2 water energy, Gentle Slap deals 40 damage. So I give myself the extra opportunity to evolve into Ludicolo. Rare candy, definitely nice to have, especially in a deck with a stage 2. Lombre's here to avoid something that's a nuisance, such as Chingling, that prevents you from utilizing item cards. However, rare candy is nice as well if you're not facing a Chingling or an opponent that can stop you from playing item cards. For those of you who don't know, rare candy in the sense of this deck, as long as Lotad has been on the playing field for at least 1 turn, if rare candy and Ludicolo are in your hand, you can evolve right into Ludicolo, skipping Lombre, so you don't have to worry about evolving into stage 1 and then stage 2. You can go right to stage 2 Ludicolo. Rare candy can be found in the Celestial Guardians packs. Really nice card for a lot of stage 2 Pokemon. Was hindered a little bit with Chingling that you can see on the screen. However, not completely nerfed, but definitely like having that stage 1, at least 1 Lombre in here, just in case I'm having trouble dealing with the Chingling. Next, let's talk about the last Pokemon in this deck, Eiscue. Eiscue's a really fun card. Not for its move, but for its ability. So Eiscue does have 1 move for 2 water energy, Ram, deals 50 damage. So really not blowing you out of the water. When you look at Ludicolo, for 2 water energy, you could deal 120 damage. Eiscue for 2 water energy, you're only dealing 50. Where Eiscue's really fun is its ability Ice Face. If Eiscue is at full HP, it takes minus 40 damage from attacks from your opponent's Pokemon. So a lot of lesser Pokemon that don't deal a lot of damage, aren't going to be hitting Eiscue for any damage. So Eiscue's going to be there, going to be tanking the lesser Pokemon that may be attacking you, and you're not going to be taking any damage. So Eiscue's going to be there to wall as you build up Pokemon, item cards, supporter cards in your hand, getting ready for your Ludicolo to deal all the damage that it can. So I love Eiscue, a really fun card. It can really wall a team, depending upon what kind of Pokemon your opponent has. It can wall a lot of lesser Pokemon, obviously not taking any damage from Pokemon that are dealing up to 40 damage, which is really nice. Eiscue can be found in that Mega Rising, Mega Altaria pack as well. So just really 2 cards Pokemon-wise in this deck that we're focused on. We're focused on Ludicolo and we're focused on Eiscue. But it's a really nice combination. Eiscue can get into that active spot, walling for you as you build up Ludicolo and get ready, get those cards in your hand that you need to defeat your opponent. Next, couple of basic cards. Pokeball, you put a random basic Pokemon from your deck to your hand. And then Professor's Research, you draw 2 cards. One card that I do really like having a Pokemon tool when coupled with either Eiscue or Ludicolo is Rocky Helmet. Rocky Helmet, if the Pokemon tool is attached to a Pokemon in the active spot and is damaged by an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, you do 20 damage to the attacking Pokemon. So you're going to tack on an extra 20 damage to any Pokemon that's going to attempt to attack you. This is really nice because if you're facing a Pokemon such as a Chingling, for example, if the Chingling does choose to attack, 1, it's not going to do any damage to you. 2, it's going to take 20 damage. And 3, it's going to really put you and the Chingling in a spot where you can easily KO the Chingling can be easily KO'd. So your opponent is really just sacrificing their Chingling to prevent you from utilizing any item cards, and your opponent is really going to have to determine, do they really want to do that? Do they really want to give up a point just to stop you from utilizing item cards for essentially 2 rounds? The one round they use it where they take 20 damage, and then the next round where they KO themselves to prevent you from utilizing item cards. So that's just something of note, that something like the Rocky Helm can really get in the back of your opponent's mind. Do they really want to utilize an attack on your Pokemon? On top of that, it adds an extra 20 damage if your opponent has already attacked or does choose to attack your Ludicolo. Your 120 can go to 140. So that could potentially be a KO on certain cards. There are a lot of strong cards that do have 140 HP. So that's something that your opponent is going to have to play around with as well, which is why I do like the Rocky Helm in this deck. Rocky Helm can be found in the Space Time Smackdown Palkia packs. Next, 2 Sabrinas. I love Sabrina, great card for a lot of different decks. You switch out your opponent's active Pokemon to the bench. Your opponent does get to choose the Pokemon they put in the active spot. However, Sabrina can do a lot, really throw off your opponent's strategy. It could get a Pokemon that you want in that active spot. It could put a Pokemon your opponent doesn't want in that active spot. There are a lot of uses for Sabrina, but it can really disrupt your opponent's strategy, which is really why I love utilizing it in a lot of my decks. It can really throw off your opponent, really put them on their back heel. Can also help you get to a basic Pokemon that you may know evolves into a very powerful Pokemon. Just for example, we have Mega Charizard Y that just was introduced into the game. Perhaps you want a Sabrina, a Charmander that's on the bench, to the active spot so you can deal with it prior to your opponent evolving into Charizard. So that's one of the ways that Sabrina can really be utilized, and that I love Sabrina, because you can get to a Pokemon your opponent doesn't want you to get to. So it's an absolutely great card, really useful in almost every deck. And Sabrina can be found in the Genetic Apex Charizard packs. Next, Cyrus. Cyrus is a very good card for this deck because there are going to be a lot of cards that you can't one-hit KO. Ludicolo does only deal 120 damage. As I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of powerful Pokemon that have 140 HP or even more. So it's going to require Ludicolo a few hits to defeat an opponent's Pokemon. Well, that's going to give them an opportunity to retreat that damaged Pokemon to the bench. Cyrus is going to make sure that they can't stay hidden on the bench. Cyrus, you get to switch in one of your opponent's bench Pokemon that has damage on it to the active spot. So nowadays, especially with Mega Pokemon, that if you defeat a Mega Pokemon, you get all 3 points, Cyrus is going to be more important than ever. If you have a lot of damage on a Mega Pokemon, you're going to want to draw that Pokemon to the active spot so you can finish it off and win the game. That's why I love having one Cyrus in this deck. Really useful, especially because, as I mentioned, you may not always finish off a certain Pokemon, giving your opponent an opportunity to retreat it to the bench. Cyrus is going to be found in the Space-Time Smackdown Palkia packs. Next, a couple of cards to keep the Pokemon in this deck alive. The first is going to be Irida. Now, Irida is really nice because it's going to heal any Pokemon that has water energy attached on it. Irida, you heal 40 damage from each of your Pokemon that has any water energy attached. That's really nice because all of these Pokemon have the potential of having water energy attached. Depending upon where you're putting your water energy, you can heal up any of your Pokemon. And remember, Eiscue, if you have full HP, takes minus 40 damage from your opponent's attacks. So Irida is going to be great to keeping that Eiscue alive in the active spot for longer, allowing you to set up, getting your Ludicolo ready, or whatever you may need to defeat your opponent. So Irida is phenomenal for this deck. And Irida is going to be found in the Triumphant Light packs. Last but not least, I do have one Lily. Lily, you heal 60 damage from one of your Stage 2 Pokemon. This is going to be found in the Celestial Guardian Solgaleo packs. This is a great card to keep Ludicolo alive. Obviously, Ludicolo is going to be your damage dealer, dealing 120 damage as long as you meet the requirements for the amount of cards in your hand. However, keeping Ludicolo alive is going to be important so you can deal a lot of damage to your opponents. So I do like having one Lily here to give the Ludicolo a little bit extra healing, to keep it in that active spot longer, to deal damage to my opponents, more so than utilizing an Eiscue. I really love this deck. It's a really fun deck. Not going to be meta, not going to completely decimate every opponent, but you can definitely compete with some of the best. I was able to defeat a Gyarados deck. I was able to defeat a Mega Absol deck. I went through a decent amount of very popular decks, so it was really fun to utilize, and it was one that can compete with some of the best decks. Am I going to take this against every deck and think I'm going to always come out a winner? No, but this is a very good deck nonetheless, and a very fun one to check out. Let me know in the comment section what you think of this deck. Is this a deck you're going to try out? Is this a fun one that you've kind of experimented with but needed to know what final cards to put in this deck? Are there cards that you'd rather see switched out in favor of other cards? Let me know what cards that you would rather see as a part of this deck that would make it even better. I'm definitely interested to hear. Are there any Pokemon you'd like to see a deck of? Let me know in the comment section. I definitely like experimenting with new Pokemon and creating unique decks, so it's always fun to get out of the meta and start creating those fun decks that people like seeing that aren't necessarily meta, but still really fun and can still work and even defeat meta decks. Let me know in the comments section. Thanks for sticking around. Definitely hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel for more Pokemon TCG Pocket content. And until next time, peace.